Let's be real for a second. We live in a world that is absolutely obsessed with speaking our minds, right? We're constantly told to share every little thought, react instantly, and make sure our voices are the loudest in every single room we walk into. But what if I told you that all of this oversharing is actually a massive strategic mistake? What if, by constantly talking, you're literally stripping yourself of power, influence, and respect?
Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're decoding some deeply counterintuitive historical laws of power. We're going to look closely at a few of history's absolute greatest strategists, kings, and diplomats to show you how restraint, and specifically the power of silence, is your ultimate strategic advantage. Get ready, because this is going to completely flip how you handle your very next negotiation, meeting, or even relationship.
So here's our roadmap for today. 1. The danger of words. 2. Say less than necessary. 3. The strategic listener. 4. The power of absence. And 5. Master emotional restraint.
All right, let's jump right in with Section 1, the danger of words, and exactly why oversharing fails.
You know, history is just packed with brilliant people who totally shot themselves in the foot simply because they couldn't keep their mouths shut. Take the Marquis de Sévigné, for example. He's a perfect case study in the trap of blurting out your feelings. So, he desperately wanted to seduce this young countess. He had the opportunity, he had the high status, but instead of playing the game and being subtle, he just spilled his guts. He told her everything, leaving absolutely nothing to the imagination. And the result? She lost interest instantly. By totally removing the mystery, he removed all the attraction. Now contrast that with the ideal strategy, cultivating a sense of unexplainable mystery. When you conceal your intentions, people are naturally drawn in. I mean, we're inherently curious creatures, right? We want to figure people out. When you hold back, you become a puzzle they're just desperate to solve, and that gives you immense psychological leverage.
But hey, oversharing isn't just about romance. It can be literally fatal in business, politics, and, well, actual survival. Consider Mucianus, this highly powerful Roman figure who urgently needed reliable ships for a military campaign. He sent an order to an engineer for a very specific type of vessel. But his engineer, instead of just guarding his tongue and following orders, aggressively argued back that a different type of ship would be way better. And step 2 of this fatal sequence, the crazy part, the engineer was actually technically right. The ship he proposed was better. But step 3 reveals the harsh reality of power dynamics. Despite being completely right, the engineer was sentenced to death by the very authority he challenged. The crucial takeaway here? Actually, scratch trying to win with words entirely. Just don't do it. Do not argue with authorities or superiors just to prove how smart you are. It just breeds resentment. Win through your actions, let your results speak, and keep your words strictly to yourself.
Which brings us nicely to Section 2, say less than necessary, the king's restraint.
We're shifting gears now from people who foolishly talk too much to the absolute masters who actively weaponize silence. I shall see. Just let those 3 words kind of hang in the air for a second. This is the infamous, incredibly brief phrase used by King Louis XIV. Whenever his courtiers would approach him nervously delivering bad news or begging for political favors, he wouldn't argue. He wouldn't justify his position or make excuses or get into some petty debate. He would just look at them, say, "I shall see," and have them leave the room. It was devastatingly effective.
So what was he actually doing? It's a tactic we call intimidating silence, the strategic use of doing or saying absolutely nothing to maintain unpredictability. Think about what happens when you talk too much. You become an open book. People instantly know your boundaries, your fears, your plans, your insecurities. They can easily map you out. But by using intimidating silence, King Louis XIV kept everyone around him in a constant state of fear and anticipation. Nobody ever knew exactly where they stood with the king. He eventually took action, or he didn't, but because he remained quiet, he was always the one holding all the cards. Remember, only speak when you have something truly meaningful to say. Making your words scarce inherently makes them more valuable. It instantly gives you the upper hand.
Moving on to Section 3, the strategic listener, silence as an interrogation.
We're leveling up now. We are moving from simply not talking to actively using silence as a tool to draw hidden information right out of your opponents. Silence literally becomes an interrogation. Meet Charles Maurice de Talleyrand-Périgord. He was a master French diplomat and actually the ultimate mastermind behind Napoleon Bonaparte's eventual defeat. Talleyrand was the undisputed master of the conversational trap, playing this high-stakes game of power from the shadows with extreme subtlety and calculating patience. Let's break down his genius method, because it's something you can absolutely use. First, he would deliberately hold himself back in conversation. He just wouldn't offer his own opinions or hastily lay out his plans. Second, he perfectly disguised this interrogation as a polite, friendly chat. He made the other person feel entirely comfortable. Third, and this is the psychological key right here, humans naturally hate awkward silences. We hate it. We're biologically wired to feel uncomfortable when a conversation goes quiet, so we instinctively rush to fill the void. When Talleyrand stayed quiet, the other person would just talk and talk endlessly about themselves to fill that silence. Finally, he would just sit back and observe as they accidentally betrayed their own thoughts, intents, and hidden strategies. He judged a person's entire character and recognized political threats before they ever materialized, all by simply letting his opponents talk themselves into a corner.
Okay, Section 4. The power of absence. Physical silence.
Let's pull this out of the conversational realm entirely. We can think of this as physical silence. Strategically removing yourself from a situation entirely is one of the most profound displays of power you can muster. A man once asked a wise dervish, "Why do I not see you more often?" And the dervish replied with this brilliant, undeniable logic, because the words, "Why have you not been to see me?" are sweeter to my ear than the words, "Why have you come again?"
Think about it. When you offer constant presence, you inevitably just become part of the wallpaper, you know? You become so utterly familiar that you get completely taken for granted. It's a fundamental flaw in human psychology. We only truly realize how valuable something is when we lose it or when it's temporarily unavailable. That is exactly where strategic absence comes in. By robbing people of your presence, you literally give them the time and space required to miss you. You force them to reflect on the immense value you bring to the table. Think about basic economics. Scarcity drives up value. By stepping away, whether it's from a relationship, a workplace environment, or a social circle, you hit reset on the dynamic. And when you do finally return, your respect, your honor, and your influence are vastly amplified. Finally, we reach Section 5, Master Emotional Restraint, the ultimate defense. See, true silence isn't just about closing your mouth or physically leaving a room. It really means keeping your internal emotional reactions completely in check. This is your ultimate defense. Think of the historical law, stir up waters to catch fish. This is exactly how your enemies and rivals will test you out in the real world. First, they lay the trap. They'll throw out a false alarm, maybe a passive-aggressive comment, or some irresistible bait. It's literally like cheese in a mousetrap. Next, they wait eagerly for the reaction. They desperately want you to feel blinding emotions, sudden rage, intense fear, or overwhelming desire. Why? Because of the result. The exact moment you react emotionally, you expose your flank. You stop thinking strategically, and you become impulsive, entirely predictable, and incredibly weak.
So how do you actually defend against this kind of emotional manipulation? By applying internal silence. First, you have to rigorously train yourself to recognize this spiderweb trap for what it is. The second you feel your blood pressure rise, realize that someone is actively trying to make you react. It's a game. Second, absolutely do not make impulsive moves. Just take a breath, step back. Third, by refusing to react, you completely flip the script. You actually force your enemies to exhaust themselves trying to provoke you. Honestly, it usually makes them look foolish and desperate in the process. And finally, you maintain an unreadable, calm exterior. Be like water. By mastering this deep emotional restraint, you build an impenetrable fortress around your mind, making sure that absolutely no one can ever pull your strings.
So, we've covered the fatal danger of oversharing, the intimidating power of the king's silence, the conversational traps of the strategic listener, the undeniable value of physical absence, and the ultimate defense of emotional restraint. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, lingering question. In your very next high-stakes conversation, whether that's a massive salary negotiation, a tense boardroom meeting, or even an argument with a close friend, how much do you actually need to say? Try holding back. Let the silence do the heavy lifting for you, and watch how the power dynamics instantly shift in your favor. Thanks for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next one.